Okay. I'm watching my phone eagerly to make sure this is like all working properly. Okay, good. Screen switching works. How's levels? Perfect. Alright. Welcome everybody who's here. I'm going to hang about for a bit. Just in case anyone else shows up, and let people get in because it's not quite 8 yet, so won't start yet. We'll have a bit of a chill. How's everyone doing? Say hi. I've had to turn the volume on my mic like right to the top so that it can hear me. So hopefully I don't end up like ASMRing everybody when I'm drinking. Need to be keeping an eye on Twitch as well. Whoop. Don't want to zoom in there. Stop that. Tag that up on Instagram. Where's my Twitch download? There it is. Just log in real quick. Oops. Bear with me. I'm waiting for Twitch to send me an email so I can reset my password. Okay, right, let's get into things. Good evening, everybody, and welcome back. Welcome to the first live stream. So the objective today is making shops. Going to incorporate some shops into the game. For those of you who don't know, anyone who's not following on Instagram or already seen the first devlog, this is a game about climbing a tower for ultimate glory. It's a roguelike, meaning when you die you start again from the beginning with no upgrades, much like something like Spelunky or Downwell, other two examples that I use in my first devlog introduction video. And yeah, today I want to, in line with my goals, I've got a little Trello board here with everything that I want to do, which will definitely grow. There's more stuff I need to add to it, but in this little to-do column I'm splitting all of the work up into like week blocks, and this week is shops. So yeah, today we are going to focus on those shop mechanics, being creating interaction system, knock the mic, making it so that the player can have items, so some sort of player switching, item switching thing, creating some scriptable objects so that I can make items really easily, and currency systems as well, which I've already implemented somewhat. And we'll get into that as we're moving. But I think probably the first thing to do would be to let's do scriptable objects. Let's do scriptable objects for items, because that makes sense in my head. If I can make items, then we can set things up to start working. So I'll just hit play for anyone who hasn't seen where we're at so far. Because as well, the sounds, I know that the sounds don't transition across in my devlog because Premiere's being annoying. But we've got this little guy who can jump about, and he's pretty cool. And these enemies which you can jump on and they explode. Since the devlog, I've improved the coins a little bit, because they were kind of not great. If you've seen that first video, you might have not even noticed they were there, and that's a problem. So I've updated them to kind of just spray out like they do now and do this little floaty animation, and then when you walk into them, it collects them like that. You can do a shoulder barge as well into these enemies, which also kills them. And yeah, at the moment it's compatible with controller and keyboard, courtesy of Unity's new input system. It makes life very easy. I'm not very good at my own game. Go on, get on that wall. There we go. And I've created a extra little room, which for some reason is disabled. But inside this extra room, down here, if I just disable this this little thing real quick. Not that one. Where is it? It's under my camera. There we go. We've got this extra little room, which I'm going to use for the shop. And it was the case that when you walk into there, it makes a transition. But I think I disabled the wrong thing, and now that's not working. So I'll tell you what, let's start with that. I think that's under the shop, this shop camera. That needs to be enabled, and this needs to be disabled. And then that should do it. Yeah, there we go. So we've got this nice little switching thing, and that actually works with music as well. But the songs that I've written, they're a bit loud, and they don't loop seamlessly either. So I need to figure out why that's happening, and yeah, then I can mess about with that. But that's what we're going to be doing today, shops. So we'll start off with getting these scriptable objects made. So I've already created this script called movement item, which I want to have. I've got it written down here on my trusty notepad. I've got 3 different types of shops which I want to have, and then there'll be a general shop as well, which sells anything from any of the other shops. So you've got a medicine store, which sells, you know, healing items, health buffs, things like that. It's like a potion store, basically. A weapons store, which sells things which affect the damage and defense that the player can do. So things like cleats or shoulder shield or something, and they can have different stats for that. And then a shoe store, which affects the way that you move. I'm playing about with some lore ideas, or ideas for a backstory, while I'm thinking about this, which will probably tie in with the name when I come up with a name. But we'll get into that when we get into it. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so that everyone can see. Is it alright? Is it alright? Unity might be a bit small text wise, just because it's a 5K iMac, and yeah, it can be a bit small, but I can't change that in Unity, unfortunately. But certainly the code, which is for me the most important part, I can keep as is. Cool. Okay. Right. So yeah, what was I talking about? These items. This is a scriptable object, which is basically just our store for data. It's like a class, except I can go into Unity and I can go asset, create, and I've got this nice little menu where I can click movement, and it will create a new little movement item, which I can then use with my player in different ways, which is, you know, that's fantastic. That's exactly what I need. So this These basic stats are the default slide speed, slide distance, is actually the distance and speed that you barge at. I was originally going to have it be sliding, but when I was doing the animations with my little prototype man, it looked much more like a shoulder barge than a belly slide. So I decided to go with that and incorporate it into the combat. Instead of having slide tackling, it's shoulder barging now. So we're going to create one of these for all of the medicine and shoe shop now. Not shoe shop, sorry. Weapon shop, because this is the one for the shoe shop. So I might change this actually from movement to shoes, not S. Shoes. There we go. And we're also going to add a public... Oops, if I can touch type good. Public int price, which, you know, will obviously be how much that item costs. And we want to have as well a public sprite. No, come on. Public SPRIT. And this is going to be the item graphic. So, reason that I'm putting that in there is because now in any code where I've got something that needs to represent an item, I can just set the graphic for that equal to whatever the item sprite item is, which means I don't have to be setting an item in loads of different places, like a graphic in loads of different places. It's just in one thing. I can set it once and it will work, and that's what we want. That makes life easy. So let's make a script for a weapon object as well. I'm going to create a new C# script. Whoops. And we'll call it weapon item. So, weapons are going to be a little more complicated. First of all, we need to make it extend scriptable object. Is that selected? Yes, it is. Scriptable object, so that we get access to the things that scriptable objects have. Get rid of all the stuff in there. And really, what I should have done is created a item class which extends scriptable objects and has a price and an item graphic and everything, and then had all of these extend that. But I'm lazy and I'm doing things wrong, so I'll fix that later. And for the time being, we will stick with having just copying and pasting everything across, and I'll fix it all later in the week. Cool. So with the weapons, as I mentioned, they might improve your damage or they might improve your defense. So I need to have a way of establishing which one it's going to be. So we will have a public enum called weapon type, and in here we can have offensive, whoops, or defensive. Offensive. And that's cool. So then we can have, let's say, public int effect value. So if it's a defensive item, the effect value is the amount that you take off of the damage that something would do to you. That could be a bit overpowered. In the case where I had something that's like, you know, deals 1 damage and you've got defense of 3, then it's not going to do any damage to you. Maybe it could be a multiplier in that case. Multiplier. We'll have to experiment with that when playtesting can happen, which I'm hoping will be by the end of the year. I'd like to have a playable demo ready. But we'll see. That's my goal. And I think that's all I need. And then in, you know, the case of offensive things, it would increase the damage that the player does by that amount. An important thing to note, actually, before we go any further, is in this game, currency is cumulative amongst all players. So I want to make this game multiplayer, and any players that collect any currency, that currency goes into a bank that all players then have access to. It's like a single bank for all of the players, rather than each player having their own. However, players do have their own items. So you'd have to, if you were playing with other people, make the decision who gets to spend the money on what items and who gets what things, which I'm pretty sure is how Spelunky works as well. You all just collect money and it goes into a cumulative pot, and then people can buy items, and when you get an item, it's equipped to the one player rather than all of them, and that makes sense. That makes sense to me. Yeah, so that's how we're gonna be building this system. So that's everything for the weapon. I think is just having this effect value, or let's call it a damage modifier. Fire. That makes a bit more sense. Cool. And then finally, we need to make a medicine item. So we'll do that in much the same way. No spaces in class names. I need to try and get Twitch to do what it's doing. Oh, I bet it's because I haven't signed into my email on my new phone yet. Oh no, that's not true. I have. There we go. I seem to have to get them to send me the code twice. Cool. Right, let's just double check how things are going real quick. Cool. Brills. Alright, yeah, so like it says in the description, for anyone watching on YouTube, I'm also streaming on Twitch. You can find us at twitch.tv/SuberDogStudios, and likewise for Twitch people, you can find us on YouTube. Just, you know, go into the search box and search for Shuberdog Studios. We are the first thing that comes up, which is very nice. And be sure to subscribe if you want to keep up with this project. I upload weekly devlogs around these things, and occasionally I plan on uploading the odd tutorial or theory video, as well as doing these live streams every Tuesday. Yeah. And Instagram as well. We have an Instagram page, which is the same name, and you can find us by searching on there as well. And I post 3 or 4 times a week on there for more consistent, regular, little drip feedy type updates. So yeah, feel free to go check those out. For now, let's finish this medicine item, so we'll do the same thing again, not paste that. Oh, that's magic. I just copied that from my phone and it's gone over to my computer as well. That caught me off guard. I was like, what? Where'd I get that number from? Okay, so medicine item, healing and health buffs. So I guess let's stick with healing for the time being. Public int heal amount. Because thinking about health buffs, or maybe it could have. Yeah, there we go. That's an idea. So. I'd have to think. So what I'm debating here is if I have an item that is activatable, then I can have a method on it that would basically activate the item. So yeah, there'd be a method for that could go in everything, and then when the item gets equipped, depending on the type of item that it is, either when it gets equipped or when the player takes damage, it would run that activate method. But I'll think about that later. I don't want to waste too much time coming up with ideas for things. So that's items done. Basically, we've got these scriptable objects, which are, as I said, data stores. They hold information about the different items. The most complex one in terms of amount is the shoes, because that's everything to do with movement, which means I need everything to do with how high the player can jump, how quick they move, how far you leap when you jump off a wall, how far you slide or shoulder barge, and things like that. Then the weapon has its two different types, offensive and defensive, which is great. And then we've got this very simple medicine item, which will simply heal the player by a given amount, which is fine. So now we need to update the player so that it can actually hold those items, which I think is this one. Yeah, there we go. So you can see I've got a to-do here to move everything over to scriptable objects, which I did, and that's there. So I'm just gonna do that real quick. Can you see the code good? Is it too big or too small? I'm getting complaints. Anybody in chat got more feedback? What's the code size like? It is pretty diddy on there. It's annoying. My phone screen keeps turning off, which means I keep losing my visibility of the stream. Yeah, that looks good. That looks good. That's funny. It's alright, just put your glasses on and squint real close to the screen. Right, so we are also going to have a public medicine item. Current medicine. That one's questionable because they're consumable. Yeah, they're consumable. So when it gets activated, it disappears. But that's fine. I've got an idea for that. We'll get to that in a bit. And public weapon item, current weapon. Okay, so the problem with this, the problem I've got here, okay, is now we've got the weapon, the player deals damage, right? that goes without saying. The player has this method. Entities, including the player and enemies, have this method called take damage, and you call that, pass in a value for the amount of damage you want to do, and then a direction for the knockback, because knockback is juicy and it makes the game feel good. It's not very cool if you run up to a zombie and punch it in the face and it doesn't move. So, you know, you want to run up to that zombie, punch it in the face, and it goes flying backwards. Makes you feel powerful, makes you feel good, makes the game feel juicy. So that's what that does. And the problem that I have is, by default, obviously you don't have a weapon item or an additional weapon item, but if you have a weapon item that deals extra damage, you want to use the multiplier from that. So I guess yeah, I'm just being silly. What I should do is, in this update method, if I have, this feels wrong, but if I have int damage No, let's not do that. Let's not do that. We'll have in the player itself a player statistics section. There we go. And we'll have a public int damage or power. Let's call it power. That makes more sense in my head, I think. And we'll set that equal to 1 by default. And then we can replace all of these instances of take damage. Instead of having it hard coded with the value, we'll have the power in there. And then as a new method, get public void, because it doesn't need to return anything, and we'll call this change weapon. So this is moving into the weapon switching and item switching for the player. So if this needs to take in a weapon item, obviously. New weapon, like so. And then in here we can say current weapon equals new weapon, and then power equals 1 multiple. Oh no. Power equals 1. So reset the power to its default value, and then if current weapon, which is now the new weapon, dot type. Oh, I didn't put in the type. I made the thing for the type and then didn't give it one. We also need to give this thing a public weapon type. And we'll make this a public. Can I make it public static enum? Yes, I can. No, I can't. Struct. No, doesn't like that. Oh, I've forgotten how to do it. Let's leave it as a public enum for now. I'm sure there's a way that I can make that static though. I feel like I've done this already somewhere. I've just forgotten how to do it. I will have done it in another project that I've worked on. So current weapon dot type is equal to. Oh, it just is like that anyway. Okay. Nice. So if current weapon dot type is equal to weapon type dot offensive, so if it's an offensive weapon, not a defensive weapon, then we'll say power times equals current weapon dot damage modifier. Cool. So that's, yeah, that literally says when we change weapon, we're going to take in a new weapon, set the current weapon to that new weapon, reset the power, and if the weapon is an offensive weapon, we will multiply the power by our damage modifier. So if it's offensive and we've got a modifier of 2, it will double the power. I mean, really, we're just going to end up with a case that the damage we do is just equal to whatever that damage modifier is. So that times equal is kind of redundant. I could just say equals and it would do the job. But, you know, keep it in line. It is a modifier, so we'll multiply. Cool. So that's that, and we'll do a similar process with the rest of the items that we've got. So we'll have a method called change shoes, because that changes the shoes you're wearing, and we need a movement item. No, not whatever that is. Movement item. I'll call this new shoes. Shoes. There we go. And then we'll have to do a whole bunch of calculating stuff in here. Which shoes are going to be a little more straightforward because I have a default item for it. I've created, if I just go back over here real quick, might not be able to see it because, yeah, it's pretty small, but under my items I got shoes, and I got these default shoes which has all of the default things, default movement statistics. My brain went a bit mushy for a second then. But that's got all of the default statistics and is actually what the player is using at the moment for all of the movement processing, rather than just having what's it called? Having the stats hard-coded. Makes a bit more sense if I do it that way. So now that I've done that, I think it probably makes sense to start moving on to doing the shop, right? Yeah, I think that makes sense. Okay, so for this I'm going to use reference to a project that I was doing for the Ludum Dare, which unfortunately didn't get finished on time, but I do want to keep working on it. Where am I keeping the files? Probably in my documents. No, it is in here. It is in here. Game projects. Maybe it isn't. Oh no, I'm going to be in a position where I'm looking for reference and I'm not going to be able to find it. Let's do a search. Or better still, let's go onto Unity Hub and that tells me where it is. Haha, I saved it under a directory for other projects, that's why. So it's under that one, that one, that one, that one, here. So in here, I have a whole bunch of scripts for interaction, which I made, and for an inventory system as well, which I would need to look at to make sure I know what I'm doing. I believe I had an interactable interface. Yeah. Very simple. It's actually an abstract class, not an interface. And it's got an animator on it because it'll do some pop-ups, and we'll do the same with this one. It's basically going to be the same principle. We'll have an interactable area where when the player moves within that area, a little pop-up appears, which will say the name of the item, the price of the item, and a little description. And then if you're within that range and you press the interact button, which for the case of simplicity I've got set to E at the moment, then it will buy that item. So as an example of something that inherits that class, we have a door which I think it used to use Unity events. Here you can still see there's some Unity event stuff. You probably can't see that, can you? Because it's tiny. Let me open it in an editor so that I can zoom in and you guys can see what's what. So this class there we go. This class extends the interactable class, which I was just talking about. I also had a dialogue system for different dialogues that would pop up depending on things that you did, but we don't need to worry with that in this game. We will probably still be using this Unity event because I want to make it so that a little pop-up comes above the shopkeeper's head, which says, you know, this is what the item does, or to say thank you when you buy something, or welcome when you walk through the door. Although we could probably link that to the shop. We'll see when we get to it. But then we've got this void interact, which in the case of a door, if the door is locked, it's going to do all of this stuff. If it isn't locked, it will move the player to wherever the other door is. But if it is locked, it checks the player's inventory to see if it has the key to unlock it, and unlocks the door if it does. Otherwise, it plays a message to say, no, this door is locked, you can't come through. And then there's that little method which moves the player to the exit door as and when you're allowed to. And we're gonna have a very similar situation in the case that this interact function, instead of it, you know, being a door that locks and unlocks and fires off a Unity event for moving, we're going to simply have it that it will change the item of the player and take away as much currency as it needs to take away. So let's do that. I need to actually make the script first. I need to sort out my my thing as well. I'll tell you what, let's just make sure I haven't broken anything real quick. Make sure that I'm still dealing 1 damage. Whoops. Cool. So yeah, you might have seen there that the enemy just pushed the coin off the ledge. And that's because I haven't figured out how to apply layer masks to coins yet, to colliders. So it, yeah, the coins still collide with enemies, and enemies can push them because they're using a rigid body. I think the solution to that would just be to make it kinematic, but that might remove the gravity. So, you know, we'll experiment with that later. Let's start by creating that that script, which I'm not going to call interactable. I'm actually going to not even make it inheritable. I'm going to call it item pickup. And this is an example of how you implement a scriptable object in like the context of a game. So, and this is why we need the different items to inherit from different things, because what we want to do ideally is have a public item, right? So that we can then just drag and drop any type of item into there, because every item has a price, has a description, has an image. So I think we're going to have to do that. We're going to have to do that first. Let's just go real quick. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I should be able to create a item script and then still assign the create asset menu stuff in the child scripts. So scriptable object, it's going to be abstract, because you can't just have abstract, because you can't just, I don't want to just be able to assign an item. It needs to be, you know, an implementation of the item or an expansion of the item. Really, it should be an interface, shouldn't it? But no, yeah, just forget it. I'll keep it like it is. So this is going to have a public there we go string name of the item. String is with a lowercase in C#. It's not Java. Public int price, cost of the item. Public string description, and you can see that name is underlined there, and it's because name is a thing that objects in Unity have already, and potentially also in C#, but I'm not 100% sure. So we're going to call this item name, just so we have that differentiation. And we're also going to have that public sprite item graphic, like so. And then in each of our actual items, we will have this, instead of inherit scriptable object, we'll have it inherit item. And then we can get rid of this. And it will all work as intended. Do the same here, item. Get rid of these two. And we also want to have the create asset menu tag, which I'm going to copy and paste because I always forget the format. And this is going to be a new weapon item under items and weapons. Really, I could just have this all under items. Weapon. Actually, I think that's how it works, isn't it? Shoes. Yeah, that's fine. And then do the same thing here. New medicine item. And it's going to be item / medicine. And we'll get rid of that and make it inherit from item as well. Item. What I'd like to see is if I have a public abstract void use. Like that. Do I have to implement it? Yes, I do. I don't really want to do that because I only want this item to be usable, which is fine actually, because then I guess I can just have it in that method, that type of item, and it's all good. Cool. Okay, so that's that transition done. Let's go back to our item pickup, and we can have it contain a public item my item, aka the item that this item pickup represents. Makes sense. And we'll have that same kind of system as we had in the interact class, which I'm just going to open up real quick. Under interfaces, interactable, open with Sublime Text. So we're going to have this same stuff is in range in the animator, and do that as well. So don't want this to be abstract because we're not inheriting anywhere. It's just going to be a void as is. And at the moment it's doing things with a trigger, which that's still fine. Another way that I could do it is having an update method and using like physics 2d.overlap sphere or overlap shape, and have it that if that's true, if a player is overlapping that shape, then we can, you know, activate it like that. What I'm also going to do, because it will make life easy, is have a public player current player. So this is simply just so I can differentiate between which player is interacting with the object. And on this on trigger enter, we're going to say if the tag of the thing that just entered its collider is the player and we haven't already got a current player, then we'll do all of this stuff. This might cause a bug, but no, sorry. And we don't have a current player. There we go. So if there is no current player and the tag is equal to the tag of the object that just entered it is a player. So if a player enters the thing and we don't already have a player, say current player equals collision dot, can I do get component on that? Yes, I can. Get component of type player controller, and then is in range is equal to true, blah 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 blah, and then on exit we'll say if current player is not equal to null, then current player equals null. Not that I really need to do that null check. I can just set it to null in any case, even if it is null. Yeah, don't need that if statement. Okay, and then on interact, so if you press E, we're going to do an if current player, except it's not that because currency is cumulative, it's owned by the game manager. So I need to say game manager dot instance, because it's a singleton, dot game currency, or yeah, game currency dot get current currency. Seems like a long trail to go through. So that's just saying the game manager, the instance of game manager that exists, because there should only ever be one, never be more than one game manager. Then we check how much currency there currently is in this instance of the game, because you know it's only in one. I'll do a similar thing with players eventually, have them all just stored in the game manager so that they can be accessed statically, but not yet because that's hard. So if it's greater than or equal to my item dot price, then buy the item, else display can't afford message. Now at this point I've realized a flaw in my plan, in that the player obviously doesn't have an array of items. It has a set of one of each type of item, whereas this item pickup has the abstract item, which, you know, we can get around that. We can get around that by checking the type. And it should be fine. Should be fine. Yeah. Yeah. So buying the item is cool. We can I do a... I'm just going to do a series of if statements because we've only got 3. This isn't very scalable though. So if my item dot get type I think is what I want to do, is equal to weapon item. Can I not do that? Boo. Yeah, here's where I'm going to run into problems. Let's see if I can access the... Oh, that's all the options I have. Here's where I might have to... turn to my trusty Google. And see how I can do this. Check class of object. Unity. No, not Unity. C#. See, it's got get type here. Oh, it's one of those annoying moments where I have to think really hard about things. Tell you what, because I can generalize it, we'll start off by saying current player dot nope, we won't. We will say game manager dot instance dot game currency dot withdraw currency is what I called the method for some reason, and we're going to use my item dot price. So take out the amount of money, and then assign the item to the player, and that's cool. And then the can't afford message we'll just print for the time being. We'll do a debug.log. Where's my .log? And we will log out. Actually, let's do a warning, because that, you know, logging warnings makes it yellow, and that's exciting. We will log out can't afford to buy. Let's make sure we get the D in there. To buy. And then we'll add on my item name, just to make sure that everything's picking up correctly. Cool. So first thing to do real quick is just say I have got a currency display which looks hideous at the moment. It's underneath here. There we go. This little thing up in the top left here. This nasty little guy, which shouldn't be white anymore, but I missed it out when I redid the colours. It should be closer to that colour. Let's make it like a lighter shade of that. There we go. That's better. We can colour pick that for the text as well. And we will start making some of these item objects as well. So I'm going to delete these env barriers, which, if you're wondering what these are, they're like some little faux blocks that I've got on the side of the screen so that it keeps it square. You'll see if I hit play with these disabled, after it loads, you can see into the other shop, and when you move over you can still see outside, but it's not what I wanted. So I added in those things so that rooms are rooms and they're all just as a square ratio, or they all sit in the middle of the screen, because the whole the whole thought of it is that you're playing in a tower, and the idea is to climb up. It's not like Spelunky, where you need to search through and figure out where you're going, and you have to go left, right, up and down, blah blah blah. It is just a case of climb, and then every so often you might bump into a bonus room with maybe a chest in it, or you'll bump into one of these shops, and they will be not choreographed. It'll be clear what the type of room is. Like for example, with a shop, I might add a sign out the front door just around here that's got a little icon for the type of shop it is. So like a sword for a weapon shop, or pair of cleats or something. So stuff like that. That's why those env barriers or environment barriers are there. So I'm just going to go ahead and start creating some items. Let's make this screen a little bit bigger. Can I shrink you? No. I can shrink you though. Make this screen a little bit bigger. Can everybody see what I'm doing in Unity? Alright, is it too big, too small? How are we looking? Let me know in the chat, guys. No? I'm going to assume it's fine. So, under this shop, I'm going to make a new... cool. Thank you. I'll make a new sprite. And this is going to be called my item pickup. And we will drag one of these item pickup scripts onto it as well. So we can assign an item. We've got all this is in range stuff. And I'm going to add a box collider 2D. And I'm also going to add a rigid body 2D. Cool. I will assign the sprite to be a basic square for the time being, which I'm going to leave as white, even though it's hideous to look at. I'm going to leave it like that. And the reason we got a rigid body is because Unity requires it for collision. It's going to be kinematic, and that's fine. So that means gravity won't affect it, and it's also going to be a trigger, because we want to make it so that when the player overlaps with this, it activates that on trigger enter method and on trigger exit stuff that we've got. So now that that's in place, we can, let's make this 1 by 1, and let's do another double check of the other code that we've got, because with Unity's input system, the way that I originally had it set up was so if you press E, let's backtrack a bit. Unity's new input system has this controller, this little component called player input now, which you add that to an object, and then that will take an input for the things. And I don't know if it's a bug or if it's intentional behavior, but if you have multiple of those on multiple objects in the scene, it's, especially if you're supporting multiple controller styles and you've got multiple controller styles plugged in, for example, you support keyboard and mouse and also controller, and you've got both a controller and a keyboard and mouse connected at the same time, it splits which uses which device. So I had the case that some interactable objects were using the controller while others were only using the keyboard, and it was exclusive. Even if you've got that auto update, auto switch flag set, which I don't think you can see because my face is in the way of it, but even if you've got that turned on where it's supposed to automatically switch between which device you're using, it doesn't. It just sets it to be a default because it thinks that's how it should be. So I need to have it so that only players or only player objects have the input component on them. Yeah, so I had to do some little jamminess in my player, so that it could do the interaction, so that it could actually trigger that thing. And I think it was a case that I had, where is it? It's going to be somewhere under here. I'll have the player script. Player, there we go. Let's open this up in Sublime Text. There's going to be a method somewhere on interact. Here we go. So what it was doing is saying this context.performed basically just says, have you performed the action? So the new input system has a few different ways of triggering things. It's got performed, started and finished, and a set of others as well, which trigger different events at different times. If you don't set that, it will fire off the event for when you press the button and when you release the button, which, you know, in the case of something like jumping or spending money, you don't want to buy something twice or press the jump button twice, where, you know, you might want to do a specifically timed double jump. If you press the button once and then you double jump straight after because you let go of the button, that's a bit useless. So that's what that's for. And it was also saying if you're not in your inventory, then you can press this button. And again, stuff with the dialogue. If you're in a dialogue manager, it just goes to the next screen of the dialogue. Again, not fussing with that in here. Otherwise, it does this alternate method for collision detection, which I was talking about earlier. It does a collider 2D physics.overlap area, or which basically draws a sphere from a position with a set radius, or well, this area draws a box from one position to another position, so fills in those gaps, and then any collider that exists within that box when the method is fired gets added to an array, which is this hits array, and then it iterates over everything that it's hit and says if it's an interactable, we're going to interact with it and then return, so that it doesn't interact with everything else that's in there or keep iterating unnecessarily. So I'm just going to nab that because that makes life easy. We're going to go back into the player controller. Down at the bottom under my input methods, I'm going to stick this under here on interact. I'm going to get rid of this inventory flag because we're not going to have an inventory in here. Eventually it will be a menu, but not for the time being. Get rid of the dialogue stuff, like so. And then I'm actually going to do a physics.overlap sphere, which is overlap circle in the case of 2D. And it's going to be transform.position, position. That's the position where it gets created from, and then we'll make it 1 unit in size, the F being for float. And if hit.getComponent is of type item pickup, then we'll do item pickup dot interact, which seems like a weird way to do things, thinking about it. It's one of those moments where you question, if I have to do the button processing for interaction in the player, why don't I just do the item pickup stuff as well? And it's a good question, but my response would be the player isn't responsible for handling item pickups. The item pickup is. So I'll keep the functionality in the item pickup, even though it actually makes my life a little more difficult in some cases. If things change, it will be easier to adapt to that, having everything in its own place. Let's test it. So if we head back into Unity, with our magical little box. Gonna make sure that's 1-to-1. There should be like a faint... Oh no, I didn't mean to do that. I just changed the collider on the player by accident. I want to be on this one. Here we go. Our item pickup. We need to make a new item. So we're going to go down here to items, create items, and we're going to make... Let's make some medicine, because that's less things to set. Test, we're going to call it medicine test with a price of 5. Description: this is a test medicine item. I'll tell you what we'll do, we'll set up all of these animations for that pop-up stuff as well, because that's all really fun. And then the item graphic, I'm not going to bother setting at the moment because we don't need to, and heal amount can be anything, because at the moment I just want to make sure that interacting with the item works, which means we should be able to walk up to this thing, press the button, and it will say you don't have enough money for this in the warning logs. I'm just going to turn down the music a little bit as well because it's a bit loud for me. Some nice relaxing Zelda stuff, because Zelda is a great game. One of the best games, and I'm very excited for Breath of the Wild 2 whenever that ends up coming. Let's just reposition this boy down to the ground. Make sure he's actually selected. Why are my gizmos so weird? Something weird is going on with my rendering. There we go. We'll just sit him there like that. And let's make these pop-up things. So I'm going to do the same Shifty Steely from over here instead of me recreating the graphics right now, because that just would use up extra time of me fiddling about trying to figure out how to use Illustrator, which I don't know, maybe you guys do want to see that, but I know that's not what I want to be showing. So I'm just going to go into these assets, and there is a PNG in here. It's this cool little happy ghost that we made for this this project. He's brilliant. He's cool with his sunglasses on holiday. If you want more information about that project as well, actually, let me know in the comments here, or send a message on Instagram, or spam me somewhere, and I'll start making some content around this one as well. Maybe like a post-mortem, and some further devlogs when things start ticking along again. There should be a bubble. There we go. I would like bubble. If only I did. If only I did. I do. Most of the time. Just not at the moment, because she's been busy. Oh, it's not white, which means I'm not going to be able to set the colours, and that's annoying, but oh well. We'll drag and drop this into... Let's put it in MISC. So this was actually for the inventory, but... Pixels per unit, I will set to 2048. It is a single sprite. Going to set the filter mode to point so that we don't get any blurring or anything, not that it matters at this high of a resolution. And in the sprite editor as well, we are going to set some little borders so that we can stretch and scale this thing without the corners losing their resolution. So where's that? Let's call it 225. 225. 225 and 225. Hit apply on that. And what that means now is if I go onto actually, it doesn't make a difference, does it? Because I'm not using UI. If I was using UI, then that would now be scaling. But I'll drop it onto my item pickup, and I'm going to reset the position. Reset it completely, in fact. And now we've got this little pop-up window, which I'm going to just stick the... Yeah, I'll stick the dark on there for now. It's all placeholder. I have a bad habit of like trying to make things look really good from the start, when you know that's not how it works. So this is going to be the background, and we're also going to add oh, I've not got Text Mesh Pro, or maybe I do. UI Text Mesh Pro. Yes, I do. 2D objects. It is just that one, isn't it? I have to try and remember which text object it is that I need to make. I can't remember if it's maybe it is that one. Yeah, there we go. I don't want to create it as UI because it's not UI. I imported a custom font as well, Quicksand. I'm just going to set the text to item name. We're going to have it be this light background color. Just do a color drop, color pick for that. And I want to make sure that it's in front of that little box as well, instead of being in the back. So we'll just move it. Can I move you forwards? Oh gosh, what am I doing? Let's move him forward so he shows up on top. Move him up a bit as well. There we go. Scale him down. Oh, I want to make sure it's centered first as well. Center justify. There we go. And we'll make it bold too, like a faux bold. And just scale that down. Possibly decrease the font size as well, just so it sits across both lines. There we go. And resize that box so that everything fits nicely. I can't hold down Alt to make sure it scales properly, so we'll just center that up manually. Position on X is going to be 0. Position on Z will set to -0.5, so that brings it in front. And the position on Y is fine to be like 2.15. There we go, 2.15. And we'll duplicate that again. Whoops. Duplicate that. There we go. Move it down. We're going to make this not bold. And we'll set this text to be here. Brief description of the item. We'll also decrease the font size a fair bit more on that one too, because it's just subtext, and I think I might make it italic, just so I can have more of a differentiation. Let's just hit play and see how that looks in game. Make sure it's readable. Yeah, that's fine. If anything, it might be a bit big. But we can sort that later. I'm gonna set these texts as child objects of the background, just so that if I'm scaling, it all scales as one. And right, we need to do some animation here. So I'm gonna pop open my animation window with the item pickup selected, create, and we're gonna call this pop up, not pop up, pop up, like so. And we will start by going to like frame 35, press record, and with the pop-up selected, we'll just set this to like 2.25 and 1.6, and we don't need to change Z because it's always going to be 1. Then we'll go back to the beginning and we'll set it down to 0. So now we've got this slow pop-up, but we like juice, so we're going to make it juicy. Going to make it slightly bigger than it needs to be there. That's going to be our final point, and then it's going to go a little bit smaller, and then it's going to go a little bit bigger, but not quite as big as it was before, and then a little bit smaller than it needs to be, and then we'll finish with that frame. And that, now we have this more juicy kind of pop-up animation, which if I just slow it down a little bit, there we go. Whoop, go on. I think we can probably get rid of these two. I don't think we need them. I think it's fine. We'll just stop, move. There we go. There we go. So now we've got this this cool little springy pop-up, which looks pretty nice. And then we need to make a close pop-up, close underscore pop-up animation as well, which is simply going to be going from that final frame scale. So we're going to select that final frame, Command C or Control C to copy, and we'll paste it there. Hit record. Head over to about, let's head to here, scale it up, and then head over here and set the scales down to 0. And what I want to do as well is make sure that these are easing nicely, so I'm going to set it to free smooth. And let's move this one, whoopsie daisy, let's move it all a little bit closer so it doesn't last quite as long. And now we've got a little closing animation as well. So at the moment, as they are, it doesn't look very good, which is fine. It doesn't need to. What we need to do is go onto our item pickup now that we've got those animations created. I'll switch back to the view we were in. It will have automatically added an animator component to our object, and we're just going to drag and drop that into the animator for our item pickup. And in our code, if we go over to the item pickup again, we should have this boolean in range, and you can see here we say animator.setBool in range to be whatever in range is what it should be doing. I can actually get rid of this. I don't need it to be there because we're just setting it to true and false when we need to be setting it. So we'll just get rid of all instances of that variable because it's completely pointless. So what we do in Unity, in our animator window rather than animation, with our item pickup selected, if it wasn't so zoomed out, on my days, there we go, we have these two little boxes to say, which represent our animations basically. So we've got this closed pop-up and this pop-up. In our parameters, if we add a bool called in range, and then we can make a transition between these two animations. So we want it to pop up when in range is equal to true. Don't want an exit time because we want it to change immediately. And then this one will do the same thing. Swoop. Stop. There we go. Except we want that to happen when in range is false. And we want close to be the default. Set as default layer. Because obviously we don't want things to be open before we've gone and stood next to them. So the final thing that we can do is have a public void start method, and in here, if I can use my keyboard, there we go, we want to set those text fields. So we want to be using the namespace TextMesh Pro so that we can access those things, and TextMesh Pro is just another text system for Unity. Unity has its own primitive text system, but it doesn't look anywhere near as good. TextMesh Pro uses vector calculations to draw the shapes for the text rather than rendering it as a pixel. So you don't have to set the font size to be massive and then scale down the object to get it to look crisp. It just looks crisp all the time. And we want to have a public text mesh pro, that one. And this is going to be our title text, and we want another public text mesh pro, and this is going to be our description. And then in the start method, we want to say if my item is not equal to null. So if an item has been set, then title text title text.text, because the object itself is referencing all of the information about that thing, which is the color of the text, size of the text, font, etc. We want to just edit the text, and we want to set it equal to my item dot title, item name even. There we go. And do the same thing for description text dot text is equal to my item dot description. If you're wondering why I'm not doing a null check for either of the text things either, it's because I'll make them as a prefab, which will always have that value set because I'm going to set it manually. A prefab is basically just like a pre-made object. Prefab standing for prefabricated, which means I've already made it and I can use it wherever I want. So all we have to do is assign these text items under title and this, and we'll set our item to be our test item, and let's give it a test, shall we? See if this works, which it should do, hopefully. Right, okay, so there's problem number one. These animations are looping, and they shouldn't be. Easy fix. We just have to find the animation in here and uncheck loop time. So I'm going to have a one for close pop-up as well. I need to sort out my my folders, don't I? So that should just disappear now. Cool. So now when we run over here and stand next to it, there we go. We've got a pop-up. So problem number two. The text is bad. Ideally what we want to be doing is automatically scaling this text so that it fits within this thing, which I need to figure out how to do. Ooh. See, I'm seeing a load of new things about this text stuff. I want to disable wrapping. It's a shame that it doesn't have scaling as an option for what to do with text in the event that it's too big. You've only got overflow, ellipsis, masking, truncate. Scroll right to page, linked. For now I'm going to go with ellipsis just so it looks neat and we can see how these animations are working properly. So yeah, if we run over here now, we get this little pop-up and then we leave and it disappears. Which is cool. And if we press E, nothing happens. Why? Because I haven't got E as my interact button. I haven't actually set that up. So let's do that. Down here in my input actions, I've actually named this attack/interact, but I'm not going to have that be the case. It's just going to be attack. I was originally thinking with oh, cool, right, yeah, let's rename that again. Rename to interact. Yeah, so I was originally thinking with just controller in mind, because the whole sort of original concept of this game came in my little group of like 3 friends, and we were like, we need more games to play, and I said, I'm going to make a game. And we always play with controllers because we play on PC, and just kind of play in that one group, which obviously you can't all play with a keyboard. It's not online, it's local play. So I was just thinking with controller in mind, but now that I want to actually release this game properly, it needs to have support for other devices. So this interact input, so the type button, I'm just going to go with my mouse, keyboard and mouse configuration, hit the listen button and press E, and it detects that immediately. And I'm going to leave everything else as is. Hit save asset to make sure that all gets updated. And then over on my player entity, under that player input module, I can add a new event. Under interact, I'm going to say player, and we're going to call on the player controller on interact. And that should do it, hopefully, fingers crossed. And there we go. Down in our warning output, we've got can't afford to buy medicine test. Which is great. So that works. Oop. Got a bit of lag there. I'm not a massive fan of that animation, but I'll fix it later. Right, so that's that. I'm just going to add an extra thing here. Say destroy this .game object at the end. So when you buy it, it deletes it. And we can actually test now if that's going to work, because we can collect currency. So if we go and kill some of these enemies, they drop coins, and then we can pick up those coins and see what's what. There we go, 3 coins in the bank. Make that 6. I believe that's enough to buy the item here. There we go. And our currency is decreased to 1 as well over there in the corner, which you probably can't see very well because it's a little bit scaled down, but that's behaving as we'd want it to, which is awesome. Nice. So the only thing left to do is actually get these items into the player, which I'm not sure how I'm gonna do. Because of the simple fact that I've made this generic and the player doesn't have a generic list of items. The reason for that is because I only want to make it so that you have 1 of each type of item at any given time. So, like, for example, if you're wearing a pair of shoes, you're not going to be wearing 3 pairs of shoes at the same time. That just doesn't make any sense. So you have 1 movement item that changes your movement, or you have 1 weapon which improves your thing, and that can also introduce some cool gameplay stuff where you have to think, oh, do I want to buy this? Because it might help me in this world, but it might not help me in the world after, and I've already got this item that's going to do me good in that place. So, you know, creates these cool player decisions that are just, from a design point of view, a way to make the player feel smart about what they're doing. If they make the decision not to buy the item, and then they beat that world, because they've got that extra buff, the player thinks, ha, I got there because I made this decision. I am smart, which is exactly what you want the player to feel, because that encourages playtime and offers a better player experience, which is ultimately what games is all about. So yeah, let's figure out how to do that. It's just figuring out how to get the type of that item. I mean, there's a really jammy way I could do it, but there's got to be a better way to do it than that. If I go into my here, and I have a public enum item type, and that can be shoe weapon, or what's the other one? Medicine. Every item needs to have a public, oopsie daisy, a public final item type. Except I'd have to define that in the child classes. So under here, public final item type. Is it fine? No, it's const. I'm mixing up Java with C#. This is annoying. This is the issue of working in Java during my day job and then trying to program a project in C# when they're such similar languages. So this is going to be item type dot shoe type, and then we have to do the same thing for all of them. This is going to be type dot weapon, and then this one is going to be type dot medicine, that's a horrible way to do things. I'm going to have to find another way to do it because that's going to irk me, but for the time being, just to get it work for the sakes of the stream, because we're going to stop in about half an hour, I'm just going to leave it as is. So yeah, here we can do a switch on my where am I looking? My item dot type. Hold on a minute. Oh no, because it doesn't have the genius. Absolute genius. This definition needs to be in here. And then I can't set it in the children because it's a constant, so I guess I just have to have it like that. Here's where Big Brain starts to fail me. Let's just have a look at this again. It's one of those moments where I'd need coders in chat to tell me what I'm doing, because I'm gonna have to figure this out with the way that I've got it. It's not very expandable, because I could let's get rid of those, save that. And that one, get rid of that. I guess I'd just have to set it when I make the item. That's fine. It's not ideal, but it's not a fat lot I can do about it right now. I'm going to do a switch on my item.type. So case 1 is that it is item.itemType.medicine. Then we'll do a new medicine item, and we'll have 3 cases for shoe and weapon. I'm going to say current player dot change weapon with my item. There's problem number 2 as well. I can't cast that item. Oh, why did I have to make life difficult for myself? I'm gonna have to do some tweaking with the way that I've got this set up. So instead of having these change X, Y, or Z methods, I'm just gonna have to have a let's say public void get item, which is going to take in an item. I still don't know how this is going to fix my problem though, because at some point I need to convert that item into a weapon item or a movement item. That's quite a ball ache. Let me think about this real quick.